Despite his seeming anger, Sylvester managed not to act foolish, keeping enough of his composure to not rush in, even in his werewolf form. And despite the fact that his werewolf form, well, looked a bit mangy, to be honest, he still held himself, well, with some kind of dignity, I guess you could call it, standing up tall, having his claws behind his back. Even with a disgruntled look on his face, he still maintained that arrogant posturing.
Well, I must say that your form is at least impressive. Most definitely not any kind that I've seen before, at least not in full state. By all appearances, you have characteristics that resemble multiple different branches. Your regal fur could suggest several different houses, but that long tail just screams Ofair. But even that isn't quite right. Ofair are a smaller breed of werewolf, usually not having the great stature that you possess. If nothing else, it's interesting, but I suppose it doesn't really matter. So, let's begin,
Sylvester said as he placed one foot forward, moving one of his hands from behind his back while leaving the other in place. His palm angled upward, and his claws pointing in my direction.
What? Oh, I see,
I said across to him.
And what is it exactly you see?
Sylvester replied.
Say Rec. How did you know that?
He said, looking across to me.
I see now. So you're trained in the martial arts. It's beginning to make sense now. That's how you were able to identify the form I'm using. Yeah, Sirek is actually a pretty good style. A decent balance between defense and offense. One uses their hands primarily for defensive techniques and movements, while offense is focused entirely on legs, or close to it. Sirek is also known as the royal combat style, as it was often taught to emperors, kings, and people in likewise situations of power and influence, as well as the fact that Sirek itself puts a lot of stringence on posture, stance. In all forms of martial arts, posture and stance are important, but in Sirek, it's key to the fighting style. Never break posture, because it's from that posture that basically all Sirek techniques are developed. That's how the style works. You start from the initial posture, the one you have now. Then, regardless of whether you're attacking or defending, which Sirek is fitted well for both, after completing your sequence of attacks or defenses, you always return to the standard posture, one created to be balanced for both offense and defense, and yields the greatest amount of power within that style for launching either. I gotta be honest, I'm a little surprised to see it. Sirek is a very old style, and uncommon to boot. Not like the much more widely known Muay Thai or Taijutsu, basic karate, and other well-known martial arts styles. It mostly died out a long time back, but then again, you are fairly old, aren't you? So I suppose it makes sense. But, just to warn you, Sirek might be a strong and balanced fighting style, but it's not a match for mine,
I said as I widened my stance, clutching my fists together, planting my feet firmly as I twisted them a bit, testing the ground underneath my feet.
I see it now. Zhao Kung Do. I'd know that style anywhere. One of the newer martial arts forms. made in the last 60 years, practiced by that famous movie star, made famous for his martial arts skills. There were many who thought that his abilities were just for the movies. So Zhao would often accept combat challenges. Trained martial artists from around the world would come to challenge him, to prove his skills were just for the movies. But I, most likely, just like you, know that that was foolish. Zhao Kundo was a master martial artist, and eventually founded his own style, a unique brand of martial arts he called Zhao Kundo, after himself. Zhao Kundo is a very powerful skill set that focuses primarily on relentless attack. Overwhelm the enemy with attacks so fierce and so fast that they have no counter for it. But I wonder, how skilled are you in that technique?
Well, Sylvester, I replied as I tried not to widen a smile too much.
I'll have you know that I'm very well practiced. Actually, I reached black belt level a long time ago. By all accounts, at least according to my teacher. Basically, I've mastered it. I was actually looking to pick up a new style. Yours is good, but I think I'm going in a different direction. You'll see why once we get done fighting. So, Sylvester, are you gonna make the first move? Or do you leave the honor to me?
I said, my claws on my feet beginning to dig into the ground somewhat. A mixture of tension and relaxation, getting ready for sudden surprise attacks, or to launch my own.
Well, if you'll offer it,
Sylvester replied.
Then I suppose I'll do the honors.
Suddenly there was a rapid burst of movement. How Sylvester rushed in. His speed was completely unhuman. But I suppose that's obvious. He is a werewolf. To be truthful, any human being met with an attack coming at that rate of speed would most likely be dead before they knew the fight started. But I don't know whether it was my martial arts training or my heightened senses from being a werewolf. But honestly, I knew he was moving fast, but it almost felt like he was moving in slow motion. As he approached, he came in with a left-sided kick, swinging for my midsection, which I easily evaded. In fact, not only could I evade it, but I could actually find the space to shift in, moving closer, moving just past the kick as it whirled past me to get in range for a close-range punch, which I delivered without hesitation, directly to his midsection. I expected him to fall back, hit the ground, maybe stumble a bit, but to my complete and utter surprise, he didn't just get hit, he got blown away. The moment the fist impacted, I could feel the immense force vibrating into his body, coming straight out of my knuckles. And as I carried through with the strike, Sylvester went flying. He must have flown back 30, 40 feet, impacting the ground like a cannonball. What the hell? I thought to myself as he impacted, seeming to shatter the ground around him. For a moment, I actually stared at my hand. There seemed to be steam rising off of it as I loosened my grip, looking my hand over. Okay, I didn't mean to hit him that hard, I thought to myself. Don't worry about it, I heard Renee's father shout out as I looked over to him in the crowd, and he was smiling at me. You're most likely a little stunned by that response, but I assure you it's nothing to worry about. I told you that having training in the martial arts would have a powerful effect as a wolf. There are certain things that most people just don't understand, and primarily it's that one can increase the strength of one's own spirit. It's something that I saw in our first bout together. You had an exceptionally strong soul, able to actually increase your outflow during combat. It's something that only high-level martial artists are able to do. Humans can't actually perceive it. Well, at least not most of them. But that ability to tap into your spiritual ability, strengthen your soul and resolve, affects your combat skills. Your abilities as a werewolf are divined from it. All of your attacks derive their power from the power of your soul. Your intense training in the martial arts has honed that spiritual power, and so you release it with every attack. Sylvester has skill, no doubt, and he is even trained in the martial arts, but he is far from on the same level as you. You have a level of dedication to it that Sylvester just can't touch. It is that dedication that has granted you the power you possess. Even if you were the same tier as him, in terms of skill, you still far surpass him. Sylvester's dedication is primarily to etiquette. He doesn't understand what it means to truly devote oneself to combat, to the honing of one's mind, soul, and body. He may know the stances, he may understand the practicality of technique, but he does not bear the true will of a fighter. Not like you and I. You will find that fighter's will has given you a great deal of excess strength in your wolf form, even more so than your tier 1 status might suggest. But don't worry, Sylvester is fine. Just give him a minute to crawl his way out, and then he can stop playing around with you and have a real fight. He took you far too lightly with his first attack, but he won't be doing that again, Renee's father said, beginning to look over to the direction where Sylvester had impacted, staring at the dust as it cleared.